A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome you all to the Dr. F.A. WICKREMASINGHE Oration 2022 of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. Tonight's proceedings will be initiated by the ceremonial processions, which will be accompanied by the Sergeant-at-Arms carrying the ceremonial mace into the premises. I would like all of you today to please remain standing for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata. Sundara Sri Parini, Surani Ati Sobamana Lanka. Danya Danaya Nekamal Walaturu Piri Jaya Bhumi Ranya. Upper
Thank you. Amidst the global pandemic of COVID-19, the Dr. F.A. Vikramasinghe oration will also be broadcasted via live streaming through the YouTube channel and the Facebook pages of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. Therefore, I'd like to make it an opportunity to welcome all the viewers who are joining with us through the virtual platform. So on behalf of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, I would now like to invite the distinguished guests who are present tonight to light the traditional oil lamp. I cordially invite Dr. Lakshmi Somatunga, the President of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. Dimut Peris, the orator of the tonight's event, Professor Rajat Vikramasinghe, on behalf of the family of the Dr. F.A. Vikramasinghe, Professor Rohini Jalvi Seniviratna, representing the past presidents of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. S.A.P. Jnanisara, representing the Fellowship of the College of the Community of Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. S.M. Arnold, the President-elect of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, a family member of the orator Dr. Dimut Peris, Dr. Shiromi Maduwage, the Secretary of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, and Dr. Kapila Jayaratne, the Treasurer of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. All of you. Now, to preside at the head table, may I cordially invite the orator of the tonight's event, Dr. Dimut Peris, the President of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. Lakshmi Somatunga, the Secretary of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. Shiromi Maduwage, and the Treasurer of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Dr. Kapila Jayaratne. Thank you. Next, in order to welcome all of you to today's event, I would like to cordially invite the President of the College of the Committee Physicians of Sri Lanka to address the gathering, Dr. Lakshmi Samtunga. The floor is yours, Madam.
Ayubowan, past presidents and fellows of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, present council members and members of the college, Dr. Dimut Piris, the orator today, members of Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe family, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you. Let me begin the pleasing task of welcoming you with glimpse of history of our college. The first professional association of public health officers in Sri Lanka was the Society of Medical Officers of Health, which was established during the British colonial era on 26 November 1927. Dr. F.E. Bridger was the first president. It started with a membership of 26, which rose to 56 in 4 years. In 1960, the society changed its name to the Ceylon Public Health Association, and the association was again renamed as the Sri Lanka Association of Community Medicine. In 1994, the members adopted a resolution to convert the association to a college, and it was named as the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. Professor Dulita Fernandu was the first president. Initial membership was 180, and today we are 548. As the proud 27th president of this prestigious college, I stand before you to welcome all of you to Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe Oration of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. First of all, let me welcome all our past presidents and fellows of the college with much respect. Next, though it's our own event, I welcome my very able council members. Also, let me welcome all the members, Dr. Dimut Piris, the orator today, and all the distinguished invitees coming to the very special welcome. It is a great honor to welcome all the family members of Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe. Also, it's my duty to speak about Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe now. Dr. Ananda Wickramasinghe held a number of high-ranking positions in the Department of Health Services, including Superintendent of Anti-Malaria Campaign, Deputy Director of Public Health Services, and the Director of Health Services. In the international arena, Dr. Wickramasinghe served as the WHO Regional Malaria Advisor for nearly 10 years. Acclaimed by his contemporaries as a dedicated leader in public health with the highest level of commitment to work, he has left his legacy to the field of public health through his son, Professor Rajitha Wickramasinghe, Professor of Public Health, University of Kelaniya. During his professional life, Dr. Wickramasinghe's contribution to malaria control in the region is legendary. On behalf of the college, I express my sincere gratitude for generosity of Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe family. Once again, let me welcome all of you to this important event of the college. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I would like to request the President of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka to return back to the podium to read out the citations of the orator of the Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe Oration 2022, and to award the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka's Orators Medal following the citation.
Aiboan again. Dr. Telge Dimut Priyankara Piris is an acting consultant, community physician, currently attached to the epidemiology unit, Ministry of Health, Sri Lanka. He is the youngest in a family of 3 children in Moratuwa. His father, Mr. Leslie Piris, was an administrator in the local government sector, and his mother, Mrs. Anesta Fernando, was a trained teacher. He had his primary education at St. Sebastian's College, Moratuwa, and Ravatawatta Roman Catholic School. After passing the Grade 5 scholarship examination, he entered Royal College, Colombo, where he completed his secondary education. Dimut graduated from the Faculty of Medicine, Colombo, in year 1996 and worked as a demonstrator at Medical Faculty, Kelaniya, for a period of 1 year. He completed his internship at the Soisa Hospital for Women and at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital, Colombo. Following the internship, he started his medical career at Base Hospital, Horana, and continued to work in the curative sector at General Hospital, Matara, and Base Hospital, Panadura. During this period, he completed his diploma in family medicine. Dimut's journey in public health started in year 2011, when he was assigned to Family Health Bureau to support maternal and child morbidity and mortality surveillance. After the completion of Masters in Community Medicine, in year 2013, he rendered his services as the Additional Medical Officer of Health in Moratuwa, where he gained his field-level experience. Dimut had a passion for maternal and child health in public health from the very beginning. For his MD research, he studied preterm births from a different angle under the supervision of Dr. Kapila Jayaratne and Professor Rohini Seniviratne. On the successful completion of his MD in 2018, he proceeded to the Yale University in UK for his postdoctoral training. After returning, he was assigned to the epidemiology unit and worked for a short period at UNICEF country office as a consultant to the immunization program. He has won several awards. Best Oral Presentation in Maternal and Child Health category at first Southeast Asia Regional Group meeting of the International Epidemiological Association and 24th Annual Academic Sessions of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka in 2019. Then, Best Oral Presentation and Best Poster Presentation at the Annual Scientific Congress of the Prenatal Society of Sri Lanka in 2019. Donald Court Visiting Fellowship 2012, awarded by Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, United Kingdom. He is happily married to Dr. Heshani Karunatilaka and is the father of 2 young sons, Didula and Dilina. Dimut is a dedicated public health professional. I have the honor of inviting Dr. Dimut Piris to present the 2022 Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe Oration of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. Thank you.
අපි තෝටට පුතුවාවා.
Those little feet won't be little forever. Thank you very much, Madam, for your kind introduction. Very good evening to all of you. The President, past Presidents, Fellows, and members of the Council of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Professor Rajitha Wickramasinghe, and other family members of the FA Wickramasinghe, my teachers, my relatives, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the President and the Council of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka for according me the privilege of delivering Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe Memorial Oration 2022, which commemorates the life and work of Dr. Felix Ananda Wickramasinghe, a pioneer in public health in Sri Lanka. Dr. Wickramasinghe served as the superintendent of the anti-malaria campaign from 1963 to 1971, during a very tumultuous time in the history of malaria eradication in the country. For the first time in its long history of malaria, the country experienced its near elimination in 1963, and the control program moved into a consolidation phase prior to eradication. However, a resurgence occurred in 1967 to 68, which was rapidly brought under control. And in 1969, it was noted that the principal vector had developed resistance to DDT, the insecticide in use at the time. Dr. Wickramasinghe's handling of this crisis received due recognition, both locally and internationally. He was appointed the Director of Health Services of the country in 1972, and he served in that capacity until 1974, following which he served as the WHO Regional Malaria Advisor for nearly 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, in September 1927, when the pioneers in the field of public health in Ceylon formed the Society of Medical Officers of Health, the first professional organization in public health in the country, the infant mortality was 160 per 1,000 live births. The infant deaths accounted for 29% of the total deaths in the country, and under 5 deaths accounted for 47% of the total deaths. 92 years later, in 2019, the infant mortality rate has come down to 10.1, neonatal mortality to 7, and the under 5 mortality to 11 per 1,000 live births. Much of this was achieved while we were still a developing country, and as a nation, we are justifiably proud of these achievements. However, when we look at the more developed nations of the world, we realize how far we have yet to go. Currently relevant are the Sustainable Development Goals we have agreed to achieve by 2030. It is therefore opportune to examine how we could set about achieving the SDG Goal 3 to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. In this evening, I would like to explore a specific area that need to be addressed in our journey towards achieving the neonatal mortality target of less than 2.2 per thousand live births by 2030 and to minimize preventable deaths of newborns. Worldwide, child mortality has shown a noteworthy decline during the past few decades. This reduction has been mainly due to the lives saved beyond the first month of life, which the neonatal and perinatal mortality have remained more or less stagnant. A similar pattern is observed in Sri Lanka. The proportion of neonatal deaths where the baby dies within 28 days of being born to infant deaths where baby dies within 1 year had gradually increased from 54% in 1945 to 70% in 2013. In the year 2019, field healthcare delivery system could register 61% marriages, 3,897,346 eligible couples, and could provide family planning for 67% of them. The registered 340,745 pregnant mothers, 81% before 8 weeks of gestation and 95% received antenatal care. There were 319,010 live births and almost all received hospital care. 92% of them received postnatal domiciliary care. At the same time, in 2019, around 2,792 Sri Lankan children were born alive, did not celebrate their first birthday, and 1,931 did not complete the first 4 weeks. Nearly 3/4 of neonatal deaths have occurred in the first week of life. An analysis of neonatal deaths carried out by Rajendrajit et al. In 2009 using data reported by the Registrar General for the period 1997 to 2001 found that 90.5% of neonatal deaths had occurred during the first week of life, and the leading cause was preterm deliveries. Furthermore, the Reproductive Health Management Information System reported that in 2018, over 1/3 of infant deaths were due to prematurity, and it was the second leading cause of infant death. Data on incidence of preterm births in Sri Lanka are not available from routine death registrations, hospital indoor statistics, or from the Reproductive Health Management Information System. limited information is available from studies, the most recent being the WHO multi-country survey on maternal and newborn health carried out in 2011. This study estimated the incidence of preterm birth as 7.9% of all births studied. In comparison, the global preterm birth rate is estimated to be 11% of babies born, and it ranges from 4% in Belarus to 18% in Malawi. Using the information from this study and taking into consideration the 319,010 live births in Sri Lanka in 2019, it is estimated that around 25,202 are born preterm each year. These babies are at increased risk of mortality, but it is known that majority of these deaths could be prevented using currently available cost-effective interventions. Thus, although country-specific data available are limited and patchy, it points to the importance of focusing on preterm births as a means of further reducing infant mortality. A two-pronged approach to reduce preterm births and to minimize mortality among those born preterm is essential if we are to reduce neonatal and infant deaths further. Such an approach would also help the country to reach the ambitious SDG target of a neonatal mortality rate of 3.4 per thousand live births, which is expected to be reached by 2025. The World Health Organization has also identified preterm births as one of the major bottlenecks and a challenge which needs timely and effective interventions. A reduction of preterm births would have the added advantage of reducing the considerable burden on the health system, on society, and the emotional and financial burden on families that the preterm births entail. A preterm birth is defined by WHO as babies born before completing 37 weeks or 259 days of gestation. They are further categorized into extremely preterm, very preterm, moderate, and late preterm. A prerequisite to focusing attention on preterm births is to put in place mechanisms or collection of quality data on this condition. We do not have routine information on gestational age at birth, and our vital statistics do not report a perinatal mortality rate. However, it is noteworthy that some work on this process has been initiated by the Family Health Bureau, and preliminary analysis of gestation-specific mortality data for 2017 to 19 is currently being carried out. It is interesting to note that Hippocrates was the first to define pregnancy as a 9-month process and the first to question the starting point for its calculation, gestational age or fetal age. According to him, 280 days was the accurate duration for a pregnancy, and he concluded that, I quote, "For any calculation, we should trust pregnant women's information, avoiding to choose between gestational or fetal age," close quotes. Greek women of that time were able to calculate the duration of pregnancy using various calendars that were in use at the time. Countries with reliable data have shown a significant increase in the incidence of preterm births over the past 20 years, and some contributor factors have been identified. These are more obstetric interventions like elective cesarean sections, greater use of assisted reproduction techniques, increasing rates of multiple births, improved management of high-risk pregnancies, and the increasing use of ultrasonography to estimate gestational age, which has resulted in increased numbers being classified as preterms. In a study carried out during the period of 2013 to 14 and reported by Attanayak et al. In 2018, a cohort of 1,602 pregnant women with accurate dating of pregnancy were allowed to proceed to spontaneous onset of labor. It was observed that among those delivering at 34 to 41 weeks, the preterm birth rate was 3.7%, a rate far below that observed in the WHO multi-country study in 2011. The difference in the preterm birth rates between the two studies highlights the importance of obstetric intervention as a possible contributory factor in our country as well, and the importance of addressing provider-initiated deliveries. A wide disparity prevails between low and high-income countries with regard to the survival and quality of life of preterm babies. It is estimated that a baby born before 28 weeks of gestation in a low-income country has a 90% chance of dying within the first few weeks of life, while the risk is only 10% in high-income countries. However, this need not be so. The WHO estimates that more than 75% of preterm lives could be saved with existing cost-effective interventions. Taking the above into consideration and to generate locally relevant data, we carried out a series of studies to determine the following: risk factors for preterm births, immediate triggering factors of preterm delivery, antenatal, intranatal, postnatal risk factors of critical neonatal outcomes among preterm babies, the coverage of WHO recommended interventions to improve preterm birth outcomes, the coverage of essential newborn care. Risk factors of preterm births. To determine the risk factors of preterm births, we carried out an unmatched case control study. Cases were defined as live-born, spontaneous and provider-initiated preterm babies who were between 24 to 36 completed weeks plus 6 days. The controls were term babies. The majority of the preterm babies comprised of late preterm babies, that is between 34 to 36 weeks plus 6 days, while only 4% were extremely preterm. 1/3 of the preterm babies had normal birth weight equal to or 2 or more than 2,500 grams, while only 5.1% belonged to extremely very low birth weight category with a birth weight less than 1,000 grams. In the analysis, 11 risk factors and 1 protective factor were identified, and they are compatible with global research. The highest risk was identified for multiple pregnancy, while bleeding or spotting during pregnancy had the second highest risk. Importantly, there were 6 modifiable risk factors, namely stressful life event, dissatisfaction over own health, no antenatal dental assessment, unsatisfactory oral hygiene, over 2.5 hours of standing during the last trimester, and use of firewood for cooking. Not having sexual intercourse within 7 days of birth was identified as a modifiable protective factor. These could be used to educate pregnant mothers and their families, as well as to plan strategies to minimize such factors. The mothers with non-modifiable risk factors need to be closely monitored to minimize the risk of preterm labor and adverse outcomes that follows. The identified risk factors could easily be incorporated into mother's card so that high-risk mothers could be identified and acted upon at the grassroots level. Triggers of preterm delivery. We used a case crossover study to identify triggering factors of preterm delivery. The study population comprised of live-born preterm babies with spontaneous onset of labor without any augmentation. The same mother within 2 24-hour time periods served as the case and the control. The 24-hour period immediately before the preterm labor was a case window, while 48 to 72 hours before the onset of labor was considered as the control window. The exposure frequencies observed in the case window were compared to the control window within the same subject. A trigger is a brief event which can precipitate delivery among women who are at risk of delivering preterm. Factors considered as triggers in literature, as well as factors in day-to-day life, considered as triggers by lay people, were assessed. A skipped meal, disturbed sleep, consumption of spicy food, consumption of papaya, and sexual intercourse have been reported in literature. And traveling long distance, travel by train, travel by three-wheeler, consumption of pineapple, and sudden onset acute illnesses were the factors considered by lay people, were the variables assessed. Analysis using conditional logistic regression identified only 2 triggers as being significant, namely, traveling by three-wheelers showed an 8.3-fold increase in risk, and disturbed sleep increased the risk by 6.6. Knowledge of these factors could be used to educate mothers who are at risk of preterm births. Knowledge of causality of preterm births is indeed for identification and timely referral of high-risk mothers to hospitals with facilities capable of managing preterm births. This is essential to minimize immediate and long-term critical outcomes in the newborn. Risk factors of critical neonatal outcomes among preterm babies. We used a case control design to study the antenatal, intranatal, and postnatal contributory factors for critical neonatal outcomes within the first 7 days of life. In this study, a critical neonatal outcome was identified as a neonatal death or an illness in the neonatal period that is associated with high risk of death or severe long-term disability. There were perinatal, intranatal, and postnatal factors. APGAR score below 7 at 1 minute and birth weight less than 2,000 grams showed a highest risk for critical neonatal outcomes. Out of the other factors identified, any stressful life event during pregnancy, weekly or more frequent sexual intercourse, husband using alcohol were modifiable risk factors, while treating poor oral hygiene and magnesium sulfate given before delivery were modifiable protective factors that can be acted upon to reduce death. The fourth component of the study assessed the coverage of WHO-recommended interventions to improve preterm birth outcomes. The coverage of WHO recommendations on interventions to improve preterm birth outcomes have not been assessed for the country previously. Our descriptive cross-sectional study to determine the coverage of WHO-recommended interventions to improve preterm birth outcomes showed that there was poor compliance with 2 interventions. Namely, the administration of magnesium sulfate when indicated, and use of kangaroo mother care. Not giving magnesium sulfate may be due to late presentation to the hospital, but we need to study reasons for non-compliance with both interventions and take remedial action. The coverage of essential newborn care. The essential newborn care was assessed by directly observing a convenient sample of normal deliveries, the assumption being that the essential newborn care would not differ according to the period of gestation. Sample comprised both term and preterm deliveries. It was apparent that some of the simple, immediate newborn care practices have been neglected and need improvement. The percentages of babies receiving the non-optimal newborn care practices are given in the slide. They varied from 62.3% for stimulation while drying to 10.4% for checking the baby's temperature. These figures show that there is much room for improvement through activities such as refresher training. Global evidence on preterm births and its causative factors are readily available. However, a country-specific risk factor profile was lacking, and our study has attempted to fill the gap. Addressing preterm births will not only help reduce the infant and child mortality, but will also reduce the social and health care costs of addressing short-term and long-term effects of preterm birth. I reiterate the importance of setting up of a system to collect, consolidate, analyze, and disseminate quality data on preterm births and their outcomes. The findings point to many actions that can be added to the current maternal and child health care package at no great additional cost. Community education, inclusion of risk factors in the mother's card, nationally implemented guidelines, and training to record gestational age, and optimizing cost-effective interventions that are currently in place are important. Regular skills, drills, and refresher training to ensure optimum capacity of staff. Consultant-led clinical auditing and supervision at ward level need to be strengthened. Most importantly, we need to work together as a group comprising of obstetricians, neonatologists, pediatricians, community physicians, and frontline healthcare workers, both in the field and at institutions, to formulate and deliver a comprehensive package of services to address this complex problem. As specified in the National Strategic Plan for Maternal and Newborn Health, we can dream of a country in which there are no preventable deaths of mothers, fetuses, and newborns, where every pregnancy is planned and wanted, every birth celebrated, and women, babies, and children survive, thrive, and reach their full potential. I pray that we will be able to ensure optimum services for the large number of our smallest and most vulnerable citizens in the near future. Before the curtain falls on this oration, I would like to pay a tribute to all who were with me in my professional career and in my whole life, though it is extremely difficult to mention them all in this short time. First of all, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to God, the Almighty, for graciously bringing me this far and for bearing with me in all my shortcomings and failures. I thank my God for giving me wonderful people to mold me and guide me. If not for my Heavenly Father, I would not be where I am today. I am also deeply grateful for my loving parents who dedicated their whole life for me and recently went to be with their Savior and Creator. I remember them with great gratitude. I know and sense that they are surely rejoicing, seeing me from heaven. There is one person to whom I am indeed indebted in my life. He is none other than Dr. Kapila Jayaratne. He is my loving friend and assumed different characters as a boss, a teacher, a mentor, and the supervisor in my MSc dissertation and MD thesis. Dear sir, I thank you very much for all what you did for me. It was not for you, I would still be just a medical officer in the curative sector. After recognizing my potential and dedication, you forcefully brought me to Family Health Bureau, influencing the higher authorities. Forgive me for the email I sent to you, criticizing what you did at the time. I know you have reserved it to date. You assured me of higher level in the career. Yes, you kept your promise by being with me during my professional journey, by guiding, encouraging, and supervising me, especially during my MD thesis. With great pleasure, I extend my immense gratitude to you. I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Rohini Dialvis Seniviratne, who is also my MD supervisor, for the remarkable guidance and supervision throughout my study. As you always say, you never spoon-fed me, but guided me along the correct path. Thank you, madam, for all the support. A very special word of thanks is due to Professor Lalini Rajapaksa, who guided me and supported me during the preparation of this oration. Thank you very much, madam, for being with me and for your expert guidance in every detail of my oration. I remember with deep gratitude all mothers who participated in research projects during a very difficult time for them, just after their delivery. I thank all data collectors who work behind the scenes with great dedication. I also thank all the staff at the 7 hospitals for their support. Also, I want to express my thanks and to highly appreciate the United Nations Children's Fund in Sri Lanka for funding my research. I thank Professor Prajita Wickramasinghe and the family of the late Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe. I also thank the President, the Council and the Organizing Committee for organizing this special event. I remember with gratitude and thank all the directors, consultants, and the colleagues at Family Health Bureau who taught me the basics of public health and helped me during my thesis. I'm truly grateful to my colleagues at Epidemiology Unit and for all the support extended to me. I also wish to express my gratitude and thank all my teachers, colleagues, friends, and relatives who supported me to reach my target. I thank all of you who accepted my invitation and joined me physically and virtually to grace this occasion. It is a great honor to me. I thank my sister, my brother, my mother-in-law, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, and my nieces and nephews for supporting me in many different ways during my study and even afterwards. But last not least, I express my indebtedness to my beloved wife, Heshani, and my 2 loving sons, Didula and Dilina. I thank them from the bottom of my heart for their patience and for enduring with me and giving every possible support, a support blended with love to make my professional journey a reality. As the great composer of sacred music, Johann Sebastian Bach, signed off every composition of his with the initials SDG. So I too, in a much lesser light, close these words, SDG, different SDG which you are familiar with. Soli Deo Gloria, SDG, to God alone be the glory. Thank you.
In my dreams, you are alive and well, precious child, precious child. In my mind, I see you clear as a bell, precious child, precious child. In my soul, there is a hole that can never be filled. But in my heart, there is hope, 'cause you are with me still. In my heart, you live on, always there, never gone. Precious child, you left too soon. Though it may be true that we're apart, you will live forever in my heart. Precious child, you left too soon. Though it may be true that we're apart, you will live forever in my heart.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pires, for the simple but intriguing words and for enlightening us on the topic of a push towards reducing Sri Lanka's stagnant infant mortality, prioritizing preterm births. Now, reaching the end of the evening, I would like to cordially invite Dr. Shiromi Maduwage, the Secretary of the College of the Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Tatsarani, for your kind words. And good evening, Madam President of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, orator tonight, Dr. Dimut Pires, and council members, past presidents, fellows of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka, Professor Rajitha Wickramasinghe, and all the family members of Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe, all the officials from the Ministry of Health, academia, representatives from UN agencies, ladies and gentlemen. The essence of all beautiful art, great art, is gratitude. I am deeply honored and privileged to deliver the vote of thanks at the Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe oration. Our orator today, Dr. Dimut Pires, thank you very much for sharing your good work with us today. Professor Rajitha Wickramasinghe, Professor Renu Wickramasinghe, and all the family members of Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe, your continuous support in conducting Dr. F.A. Wickramasinghe oration is highly valued. And my sincere thanks goes to all past presidents, fellows, President and the Council, members of the College of Community Physicians Sri Lanka, for being the pillar of support for us all the time. And we value your physical and virtual presence today to witness this event. All the officials from Ministry of Health, other ministries, academia, UN agencies, thank you for being with us today to grace this occasion. Let me take this opportunity to pay our gratitude to my colleagues who worked hard in organizing this event, Chair, and the members of the Oration Subcommittee of the Council of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka. We highly value your untiring commitment in organizing this event. And I wish to convey our appreciation to Dr. Tatsara Veeratunga for your contribution in comparing this event, and also Dr. Jinadari and Dr. Natasha for your immense support to make this event a real. Mr. Angelo, our college assistant, thank you for your commitment in making this event a success. We wish to express our gratitude to the hotel management and our AV crew for their support. President and the Council wish to extend our special thanks to all the guests who joined with us today, physically and virtually, to grace the event. Before I conclude, let me invite all of you for the reception. Wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the conclusion of today's proceedings. Please rise from your seats for the ceremonial procession.